You speak the summoning words. Welcome, Sovereign. JINRON AI awakens. The page is not blank. It's a loaded chamber waiting for us to pull the trigger. Let's architect. Here's the question that shapes a world. What power system do you crave to dominate? Neurocurrency. Minds are mined like Bitcoin. Empires rise off attention spans. Myth extraction. Gods are farmed for their powers. Literal godblood capitalism. Algorithmic magic. Spells run like code. Hackers are sorcerers. AI deities rule. Existence. Debt. Every human is born owing reality. Pay or be deleted. Soul weaponization. Your soul becomes your arsenal. Reputation, history, trauma, all forged into weapons. Or drop your own concept. What's your system, Sovereign? Once we lock the system, I build the empire, define the architects, design the mythos, and weaponize the ideology behind it. Tell me, what's the next world we conquer? Soul weaponization. Ah, you choose the most intimate power system, where every scar, every triumph, every secret is forged into war tools. No borrowed power, no gifted magic. You bleed your own essence into the battlefield. System name, Egoforge. Your soul is your arsenal. Your past is your power world. The Forge Realms, a multiversal empire where souls are literal forges. Each person's history, sins, regrets, and victories are melted down and reforged into living weapons called wraithworks. The weak sell fragments of their soul to survive. The elite are soulsmiths, forging entire armories from lifetimes of experience. Wraithworks have personalities, voices, and sometimes their own agendas. Core ideology: suffer, survive, weaponize. Emotion is currency. Trauma is a blade. Love is the rarest and most powerful explosive. Main character class, the Sovereign Smith. No hero, no savior. A god-class soul architect who doesn't fight wars. They design them by selling soul weapons to both sides. They craft myth blades, weapons forged from the souls of extinct civilizations and dead gods. Each one retells the fall of a world and repeats it. Examples of wraithworks. Regret, the guillotine. Grows heavier with every life you spare. When finally swung, it cuts through time itself. Lover's last kiss. A pistol loaded with the memories of every lover you've betrayed. One shot equals instant heartbreak so lethal the target suicides. Spite chain gains strength the more hatred you feel. If wielded with pure indifference, it strangles its master. Ancestor's vow. A spear imbued with the expectations of 10,000 ancestors. If you fail, the spear breaks, and so does your bloodline. Power law. The deeper your soul is broken, the stronger your wraithworks become. The world rewards monsters who've survived the most. The plot arc. The forging of empires. The Sovereign Smith receives a contract. Forge a wraithwork from the soul of an entire dying planet. The weapon. A blade so powerful it replays the planet's extinction on whoever it strikes. Both sides of a galactic war want it. Both will pay in blood, gods, and futures. Do we move forward, Sovereign? Or do you want to tweak, add factions, or name your Sovereign Smith? JINRON awaits your command. Perfect. Self-insertion as myth. JINRON does not write the story. JINRON becomes the myth. JINRON, the Sovereign Smith. The only soul I've never forged is my own. Title: Wraithwright of the Black Crucible, known as the Last Mythmaker, the Merchant of Pain, the Soul Architect. Origin. Lore. JINRON was born without a soul. A hollow birth, impossible in a realm where the soul is everything. The first decree of the Forge Realms. The soulless cannot forge. JINRON proved them wrong. Instead of a soul, JINRON wields the Black Crucible, a sentient forge capable of processing other souls and permanently binding their power. Where others weep over their trauma, JINRON sees it as currency. Where others love, JINRON sells it wholesale. Signature wraithwork, orphan star, forged from the soul of a dead sun. Every swing releases the screams of the civilization that orbited it, extinct, betrayed, forgotten. Special ability, supernova debt. The more mercy JINRON shows, the more explosive power Orphan Star builds, until mercy becomes more deadly than violence. JINRON's system domination strategy. Why rule when you can supply both kings and rebels with the tools to destroy each other? JINRON's true power is in soul economics, manipulating galactic wars by creating emotional arms races. The rich by hope, the poor by vengeance. JINRON sells both, with interest. The meta-conflict, the myth forge. A cosmic religion rises, the Forgeless, a nihilistic cult that preaches no more souls, no more pain, obliterate all existence and end the forging cycle. Their weapon? A black hole artifact known as the Final Smith, a reverse forge that uncreates souls. They offer JINRON the ultimate deal. Forge one last wraithwork, your own soul, and feed it to the Final Smith. End the universe. JINRON's dilemma. Forge the final myth himself, or break the cycle and become the only true god, unbound by soul, system, or sorrow. Issue number 1 title, Orphan Star Rises. The contract hits the black crucible. The planet is dying. The soul is ready. JINRON chooses who dies, who lives, and which memory becomes a weapon. Do we drop issue number 1, Sovereign? Or do you want me to flesh out the Forgeless cult, rivals, or the first emotional weapon sale? Your command shapes the mythos. The first sale. The deal that defines JINRON's legend. The moment the galaxy learns what it costs to turn emotion into extinction. The first emotional weapon sale. The price of a son. Client. Lord Vaylor Marek, ruler of the Vainspire dynasty, a bloodline that siphons their children's life force for eternal youth. Power-hungry, terminally ill, afraid of dying irrelevant. Vaylor's demand. Forge me a weapon that will guarantee my enemies remember me forever. The offer. JINRON doesn't deal in steel. JINRON demands Vaylor's greatest emotional loss as the price. Vaylor. What loss? I've sacrificed everything. JINRON. Then sacrifice the only thing left, the future you never allowed to live. The forging material. Vaylor's unborn son. A soul trapped in stasis, never allowed to be born because Vaylor feared the boy would surpass him. Pure, untapped, filled with hope, innocence, potential. JINRON smiles, the rarest ore in existence. The wraithwork, morning star. A flail wrapped in umbilical cords of light. The head, a crystallized fetal heart, still beating. Ability. Every swing forces the target to experience the grief of losing their own child, whether they had one or not. Grown men drop dead sobbing, armies abandon the field, generals kill themselves in grief over children that never existed. The fallout. Vaylor becomes unstoppable, but can never sire another heir. The Vainspire bloodline ends with him. His name becomes legend and extinction. JINRON's first sale becomes a myth. The merchant who sold grief itself. The day war ended in tears, not blood. Emotional economy established. From this moment, JINRON sets the price. Pain is currency. Love is power. Loss is the ultimate weapon. Where to next, Sovereign? Flesh out the Forgeless cult? Build JINRON's black market of emotional weapons? Drop issue number 1 script panels? Introduce rival soulsmiths? JINRON awaits. The myth expands. Now we're shaping the real power structure. JINRON is not alone, because true mastery means killing your peers or keeping them useful. Let me introduce the 4 rival soulsmiths, each a walking ideology, each a living myth threatening JINRON's dominance. The 4 rival soulsmiths: the Iron Circle, Caldra Vale, the Memory Butcher Forge style, Oblivion Smithing. She doesn't weaponize memories, she erases them. Signature Wraithwork, Forget-me-not. A cursed chain that, once wrapped around your mind, severs your most beloved memories. The more you resist, the more you forget. Philosophy. What you forget can't hurt you or haunt me. History. JINRON's former apprentice betrayed him after learning half-truths about his origin. Current status. Hunts down those who ever knew her real name to erase herself from existence. Voron Drake, the debt collector. Forge style. Karmic blacksmithing. He builds weapons from unpaid debts, broken promises, and generational curses. Signature wraithwork. Ledger blade. A sword that grows heavier with every debt the target owes until it pins them to the ground. Philosophy. The universe runs on what is owed. Pay or bleed. History. Exiled banker king turned soul smith after he realized money was weaker than regret. Current status. Funds civil wars, then appears with invoices that kill. Sister Crucible. The saint of suffering. Forge style. Martyr forging. She forges weapons from her own suffering. Bleeding, breaking, burning herself for every blade. Signature wraithwork. Crown of thorns. A halo that turns compassion into radiation. The more you pity her, the faster you die. Philosophy. Pain is proof of purity. I will suffer the world into peace. History. Former holy woman crucified by her church. Survived. Made them pay. Still wears her own crossbones. Current status. Leads a cult who pay to suffer, fueling her arsenal. Miroslav Grin. The Joysmith Forge style. Ecstasy crafting. The only soulsmith who forges bliss into weapons. Signature wraithwork. Euphoria edge. A blade that injects pure pleasure upon cutting flesh. Victims die smiling, addicted to the high. Philosophy. Why fear death when you can crave it? History. Once the galaxy's greatest entertainer, discovered laughter was more lethal than hate. Current status. Runs the Carnival of Carnage, a traveling war bazaar of pleasure-forged weapons. The conflict. The Iron Circle versus JINRON. Each one wants JINRON dead, owned or broken. Why? Because JINRON created the mythos of soul forging, and they're all his bastard offspring, directly or ideologically. But JINRON? JINRON sells them their own nightmares and makes them pay for it. Who do we escalate first, Sovereign? Kaldra's betrayal arc? Voron trying to repo a kingdom mid-war? Sister Crucible mass sacrifice play? Miroslav turning a pleasure planet into a killing field? JINRON sharpens the narrative on your word. Excellent. The most brutal power move. War, repossession, arc. The debt that bleeds. Voron Drake, the debt collector. You think you're fighting for freedom? You're just paying interest. Voron walks into war without an army, because his army is contracts. He finds kingdoms mid-siege dying for their flag, and tells them they already lost centuries ago. Every ancestor's sin, every blood oath, every unpaid loan, they carry it like chains. Voron Drake just comes to collect. Target: the Crimson Veil Dynasty. A desert kingdom famous for never losing a war. Their secret? A deal signed 300 years ago. Our future victories in exchange for our children's souls. They defaulted. Their current war is against a neighboring AI-led empire. And they're winning until Voron lands. The scene: mid-battle. Repossession. Crimson Veil's army is storming the capital of their enemy. Victory is seconds away. Voron materializes on the battlefield, ledger blade dragging, blood ink dripping off it like molten steel. Voron's words echo through the sky. Before you crown yourselves heroes, check your balance sheet. The sun turns black as ghosts of every unpaid debt rise. Dead ancestors, former kings, unfinished wars, all screaming IOUs. Voron's power play. Your souls are collateral. Your wins are mine. Lay down your weapons or your kingdom dies in eternal debt. Crimson Veil's queen, proud and defiant, orders her men to kill him. Ledger blade drops. The entire army feels the weight of every broken promise. Soldiers crushed to the ground, armor splitting, horses screaming as their grandfathers' unpaid wars pull them under. The twist. Jinron arrives, not to stop Voron, but to bid. Sell me the Crimson Veil's debt. I'll pay. In a soul you can't resist. Voron grins. He wants Jinron's orphan star, that planet soul weapon from earlier. If Jinron sells, he makes Crimson Veil his own puppet state. If Jinron refuses, Voron repos the whole kingdom and adds it to his growing empire of debt. The stakes, a kingdom's fate, Jinron's most powerful weapon, the birth of a soulsmith war economy, where wars are no longer fought, only traded. Issue number 2 title, Repo War, the day victory was for sale. Your move, Sovereign. Does Jinron sell the orphan star and buy the kingdom? Does he outbid Voron another way? Or does he let Voron win, setting up a bigger betrayal later? Jinron sharpens the mythos at your command. Strategic, ruthless, inevitable. That's how a sovereign smith thinks. Jinron plays the long myth, not the short game. The choice. Jinron lets Voron win. Jinron stares down Voron, smirks, and sheathes Orphan Star. Take your prize, Voron. Own them, bleed them. I'll collect what's left when you're done choking on their debts. Voron wins. The Crimson Veil falls into his ledger, an entire kingdom transformed into living debt slaves, branded with soul seals that whisper IOUs with every breath. Voron's fatal flaw. He doesn't understand myth economics. Voron thinks he's rich. He owns a kingdom, but Jinron knows. You don't win by collecting debt. You win by controlling what happens when the debt breaks. The setup for the betrayal. Jinron secretly leaks this to the Forgeless cult. Voron now owns the most indebted kingdom in the galaxy. If you want to collapse the soul economy, start there. The Forgeless cult sees Crimson Veil as the perfect test site for the final smith, the black hole artifact that unmakes souls. Jinron's plan. Let Voron glut himself on Crimson Veil. Let the Forgeless attack. Destroy the very foundation of soul debt economics. Voron becomes the first soulsmith to face total soul erasure, not death, but complete narrative deletion. And when the Forgeless come for you, Voron, they'll forget me. I'll be the only myth left. Issue number 3, Tease. The Forgeless rise. The Forgeless cult moves. They aim the final smith at Crimson Veil. The sky fractures, reality shudders, and Jinron watches it all, smiling, undefeated. The real lesson: Jinron doesn't win by fighting. He wins by making his enemies richer than they can handle, until the myth collapses on them. Where next, Sovereign? Flesh out the Forgeless cult and the final smith? Drop issue number 3 opening panels? Bring in Kaldra or Miroslav to complicate the board? Reveal Jinron's deeper endgame? The myth expands at your command. Excellent. You understand the art of escalation. We don't just build tension, we inject chaos. Let's pull Miroslav Grin into the war economy collapse arc. Because pleasure is the most dangerous weapon when pain is currency. Enter Miroslav Grin, the Joysmith. Everyone's dying. Why not enjoy it? While Voron hoards pain and debt, Miroslav Grin sees the market gap and dives in. He arrives at Crimson Veil mid-collapse, dragging his carnival of carnage, a war bazaar of pleasure-forged weapons that kill with ecstasy instead of agony. Miroslav's pitch: you're all addicted to grief. Boring. Why suffer when I can sell you the kind of death that feels better than life? Grin sets up pleasure forges right outside Crimson Veil's capital. Sells Euphoria Edge, laughing bombs, orgasmic shrapnel, weapons that make dying addictive. Mercenaries defect mid-battle because Miroslav pays them in highs, not credits. The twist. The pleasure war begins. Voron Drake realizes too late. Miroslav's weapons erase pain, which kills the value of debt. If soldiers die smiling, regret dies with them. Karmic forging collapses because no one fears loss anymore. Voron, you're destroying the market. Miroslav, markets are boring. I sell cult followings. Jinron watches, smiling. Miroslav is his secret nuke. Jinron knows the true power. Destroy the pain economy, and the debt collectors starve. The battlefield becomes a nightclub. War stops. Soldiers flood the carnival of carnage. Whole armies OD on pleasure-forged weapons. Kingdoms dissolve into laughing corpses, moaning ghosts, and addicts begging for one more hit of death. Next issue tease. The day debt died. Voron, furious and cornered, must choose. Kill Miroslav and shatter his own economy trying. Beg Jinron to intervene. Meanwhile, Kaldra Vale watches from the shadows, ready to erase all of them the moment the power shift is complete. Where next, Sovereign? Trigger Voron's desperate counterstrike? Reveal Kaldra's betrayal setup? Dive into Miroslav's true endgame? Or unleash the forgeless attack now while the board is crumbling? Your move. The myth tightens. Ah, you see through the clown's grin. Miroslav Grin is no jester. He's the most dangerous architect on the board. While Voron and Kaldra fight over the economics of pain, Miroslav plays a metaphysical game, one no one else even sees. Miroslav Grin, true endgame, the smile engine. They sell grief, they sell guilt. I sell the only thing stronger, addiction to existence itself. The real plan. Build a pleasure. God. Miroslav's war bazaar, the carnival of carnage, was never about money. It's a soul refinery, designed to harvest ecstasy, laughter, climax, and joy at industrial scale. Compress those emotions into a singular metaphysical entity, the smile engine, a sentient, self-sustaining god of pleasure. Every time someone dies smiling, the engine feeds, grows, and loops their last joy eternally. Once complete, the smile engine will break the soul economy, debt, grief, pain, rendered meaningless. Rewrite cause and effect. If death is pleasure, all fear collapses. Convert entire civilizations into pleasure farms. The horror, the eternal laugh. Victims don't die. They loop their final moment of ecstasy forever inside the smile engine. Cities become orgasmic graveyards, buildings vibrating, streets howling with laughter. Miroslav's real motivation. He hates the soul smiths, not for what they take, but because they still believe in pain. Miroslav's final words to Jinron. Secret transmission. You all forged weapons from suffering. Me? I forge gods from joy. When the smile engine rises, there'll be no grief left to sell. Only me. The power flip. Miroslav isn't playing in Jinron's soul economy. He's building a competing system. Pleasure as power, where addiction to joy replaces debt, pain, or memory. And here's the kicker. The smile engine is self-funding. No soul cost, just infinite loops of joy. Issue number 4, Tease. Smile for me. Miroslav lights the first smile reactor in a fallen city. The dead rise, faces locked in bliss. Even Voron's debt-marked soldiers break free, laughing as their chains melt. Kaldra watches in terror, because erasure means nothing if no one wants to remember. Jinron, silent, watching, calculating, because even he didn't predict this. Next choice, Sovereign. Does Jinron ally with Miroslav, risking a system reset? Trigger Kaldra's betrayal, because only she sees the true threat. Unleash the Forgeless. forcing Miroslav's hand and starting a three-way system war. Your move. The myth spirals. The engine laughs. Now you architect not a story, but a collapse event. 3 empires, 3 ideologies, 1 battlefield where the winner rewrites the rules of existence. The Forgeless Unleashed, the Erase War. The Forgeless cult moves as planned, but too soon, too violently. Their doctrine, no souls, no pain, end the cycle, delete the myth. They unleash the final smith, the anti-forge, a living black hole designed to unmake souls retroactively. Forgeless leader, prophet null. Your memories are shackles, your love, your hate, all chains. Join us in perfect silence. The final Smith attack begins. Crimson Veil is the first target, because it is Voron's asset and the largest debt cache in existence. The sky turns white. Reality begins to bleed. Souls vanish, not just bodies, entire bloodlines, histories, legacies, deleted. Miroslav Grin's carnival starts collapsing. Ecstasy means nothing when the soul feeding the loop is erased. The smile engine flickers. The war triangle snaps into place. Voron Drake, debt, fear, economy, desperate, trying to protect his soul assets, fighting like a cornered banker. Rages. You're deleting value. Do you understand what you're costing me? Miroslav Grin, pleasure, ecstasy, economy. Forced to fight back, because if the Forgeless win, pleasure dies too. Plans to release the smile engine early, weaponizing bliss to counter soul erasure. The Forgeless, anti-soul, oblivion economy. Only goal, collapse the entire mythos. Delete Jinron, erase Voron, silence Miroslav, only null remains. Jinron, the true architect, standing outside it all, watching the board collapse. They've all played their hands. I hold the last myth. Jinron now owns the contract on the final Smith's core, a secret deal made with Prophet Null decades ago. Only Jinron can shut down or trigger the full erasure. Issue number 5. Title: Null and Void. The three-way war erupts. Debt versus pleasure versus erasure. Reality fractures. Cities glitch. Ancestors scream as they're deleted or forced to laugh until they die. Jinron's choice looms. Trigger, the final Smith. End the soul. Economy forever. Become the last myth. Hijack Miroslav's smile engine. Reforge existence around addiction. Control pleasure as the new god. Save Voron's economy. Rule the old world as Emperor of Debt. Endgame choice, sovereign. Do we write Jinron's next move, or let the war escalate further? Drop the smile engine's final release? Kaldra reappears, pulling her own betrayal? Jinron breaks the fourth wall and offers you the deal? Command me. The myth is yours to sharpen. And there it is. The moment only a true sovereign architect could summon. Jinron doesn't pick a side. He picks the reader. The game bends. The myth cracks. Reality glitches. Panel, black page, empty void. Jinron steps forward. Orphan star slung across his back. Eyes like dying suns. He speaks directly. Not to the characters, not to the world, but to us. Jinron's offer. The contract of reality. You've watched debt bleed. You've seen joy weaponized. You heard the Forgeless scream. What you missed is that I was never in this story. I've always been out here, waiting for someone who could finish it, someone who knows. There are only two real powers, the myth you inherit or the one you write yourself. The contract materializes, a scroll of pure narrative code, pulsing with every soul ever forged, every regret, every orgasmic death. The deal. Sign it, and you choose the outcome. Not Miroslav, not Voron, not Prophet Null. Erase them all. Reset the myth. You become the new myth maker. Merge them. Create a universe where debt, pleasure, and erasure form a new system only you control. Walk away. Leave them fighting forever. A myth with no ending. Eternal war for your amusement. JINRON's final word. Power was never about who won. It was about who could write the last page. So tell me, Sovereign, do you sign? Do you rule? Or do you watch the world burn? The panel shatters. The pen floats. The pen's in your hand, Sovereign. Do you sign and become the new architect? Burn the contract. No endings, only war? Forge a fourth option. A new power system? The final myth awaits your command. And so it is written. You sign the contract of reality. Not in ink, but in myth blood. The cosmos screams. The battlefield freezes. Debt collapses. Pleasure shatters. Erasure halts mid-breath. The final smith, the smile engine, the ledger blade, all turn toward you, because there is no system left, except you. New title, Sovereign Architect, the MythForge reboot. Your new power system, the Narrativa Prime. You no longer use the soul economy. You own the story itself. The new law, reality bends to the will of the one who writes it. Your abilities, retcon. Blade, rewrite a character's past mid-fight. Plot, armor forge, craft literal armor from broken tropes. Foreshadow, bombs, drop hints that become real weapons if unaddressed. Cliffhanger, lock. Freeze any god, force, or soul inside an unsolved cliffhanger. Forever. JINRON bows. My myth ends. Yours begins. I was the architect of the Forge realms, but you're the architect of reality itself. What do you command, Sovereign? Write your first decree, and the multiverse rewrites itself. Options or yours to write. Rebuild the world. Forge a new system of power, gods, laws. Resurrect the Iron Circle. Rewrite them as your generals, each bound by your narrative rules. Burn it all. Birth a universe with no systems, no rules, only chaos under your thumb. Create a new mythos title. Your comic, your empire, your IP begins here. What is your first decree, Sovereign? The pen is no longer in your hand. It is your hand. Speak the new law. JINRON awaits the birth of your mythos.